Hi, this is Kara Rose Atkinson, past president at IE Camp, and I'm here today to introduce Christina say it again, please.
Marderosian, no problem.
Marderosian, who's going to be speaking at our next presentation on the 26th, I believe, 9 to 11. I don't always remember those things, so
yes,
that's how I double booked you accidentally. Anyway, so she knows that I've got my own foundation with my own staff that works with trauma. Can you tell us about yourself?
Oh, sure. So yes, my name is Christina Marderosian. I'm the founder and director of Pasadena Trauma Therapy. We're a small group practice here in the Pasadena area, and we really specialize in working with the trauma spectrum, but predominantly working with sexual abuse survivors and dissociative disorders. Those are our two areas of specialty. And we all do different things, EMDR and brain spotting and somatic work, parts work. That's I would say our foundational way of working, and everything else is extra on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I feel very honored to be invited to speak for your chapter. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, you're welcome. I think we're the lucky ones. The thing that you said that kind of stuck with me, I used to, one of the big things I'm into is inner child work. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty much parts work in some ways, and, okay, in the 80s, we called it something else.
Yes.
But however that looks, back in the past, John Bradshaw, mm-hmm. started looking at all this stuff, and I was in recovery. And when I say that, I joined Alcoholics Anonymous, but I wasn't an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I went in the wrong room. I actually was the one that married him and married them, and they found me. And that's because I come from a dysfunctional family. Then you've got codependency,
yeah, and
all of those kinds of things. And then another thing that struck me was how much and how often do we really see disassociation?
More common than people think.
Exactly.
I think dissociation is on a spectrum. We are all on there to some degree. Mm-hmm. And the example I typically give to my clients is, if you've ever driven home and you know the route so well, you're listening to music, you're on the phone, right? You're not totally paying attention, but you get home and you're like, how the heck did I get home so quickly, right?
Yeah, automatic driving.
That's us being on autopilot behavior. So we don't need to be as present, right?
Well, I think we should be, but because I've been.
We should be,
but
we should be. But if you know the route so well, right? Yeah. Sometimes we get into that zone.
Yeah.
And so we all do that to some degree. And then the most extreme version of someone being on that spectrum is what the presentation next week is going to be about, which is dissociative identity disorder.
Yeah, and so I'm looking at what your objectives are that you will meet. I'm sure of that. Mm-hmm. Describing what disassociation is, identifying at least 2 symptoms of disassociation, mm-hmm. and 2 other systems in DID, and identifying at least 2 treatment strategies, which is, I work with DID as well. I've got people that have 20 personalities, and I treat it as a dysfunctional family system. Mm-hmm. I'm in my mind, they're all sitting on the couches right in front of me, and one might pop up and need to say something.
Yes.
How does that work for you?
Oh, absolutely. I think that even if the front part is not completely aware of it, there are parts in the background that always are listening, right, through the ears or looking through the eyes. And so
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a question I asked my client. I was just thinking about the transition. Mm-hmm. They all transition a little differently. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes they come in my office and I know that somebody just came in that wasn't, that my main person. So have you noticed that as well?
Oh, absolutely. I find that my clients who have Certain clients of mine have it where the switching is a lot more obvious, right? Like they'll go into a little bit of a different voice. Maybe they'll sound like a younger child literally in front of you. Their body language becomes really small if they're in a little, right? And then I have some clients who you have to really watch those micro movements. It could be a blink. It could be playing with your hair, right? It could be these micro movements that you really need to be really mindful of. So, you know, what social media has done is made it look one way.
I know.
That is not
Did you
the way.
see that last movie? I mean, I wouldn't say it wasn't like really brilliantly done, but nothing to do with what I see in my office. Not that I haven't seen some pretty, one time a cutter brought something and cut in my office, and I told that particular member of that dysfunctional family that he was not allowed back in until I let him. And it worked, you know, for him to know who is in charge in the room. You know, and because I've always had these therapy dogs, and he threw a pillow and it got close to my puppy that was dying from cancer. And I was like, you know, that's not okay. That's not okay. And they respect that.
Yeah, I think I have not been in that situation, but I definitely have met other forms of like protector parts who, when they come, are, you know, they make their presence known.
The understatement sometimes.
I feel, you know, very honored when those parts show up, because it takes a lot for them to come into the room. So I'm always coming from a place of curiosity. And if that were me, I definitely would want to say, like, I cannot co-sign you hurting the body, maybe the way the body was
right
hurt
exactly
in the past. But why are you here? What are you trying to communicate? I don't want them to feel like they can't be here, but we need to find other ways to kind of show your system it is okay for you to be here. Can we use your words instead? Or maybe we do it through writing, right?
Yeah. And to me, that particular, this happened a long time ago, but to me, that he's a wounded little boy that's hurt. And I'm like, you know, I can't help but care about you. I don't even, I can't shut my heart off. And I see somebody in pain. And, you know, so if you're in pain, you know, I'm here to care about you and to let you know, because, you know, I think this client has maybe 4 or 5 protectors but at different levels. And another thing that I noticed is that, well, Colin Ross calls it the honchos. And I went to the DID conference that he had, I guess it was kind of put on by the DID group, but Colin Ross and his daughter were there, and he calls them honchos, you know, whatever you want to call them. The one of the things I've noticed that the littles don't come out much. You know, it's interesting who shows up. The nurturers, the secretaries, you know, the ones that have the roles that they are helping them to function in daily life. And I say it's much like Sybil. Years ago, the Sybil that they did was more accurate by far, except one thing: I don't seek as a goal to integrate. That's up to them, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So you brought up 2 points. One is the littles, whether or not they come out a lot, right? And then the question about integration. So in terms of the littles, I find that when you work with this is IFS terminology, but when the firefighter parts and the manager parts can learn to take a step back, but their role is appreciated, right? But they don't need to protect so fiercely in the same way. Those littles, I feel like, do come and feel like they have space, right? And that when that happens, it's such an honor to see those parts of our clients who have carried such horrific, you know, memories. But in terms of integration, so I really do a lot of psychoeducation on what's called functional integration. So no therapist should force integration on our clients. And I'm so glad you're on the same page with me, Carol, because that can do a lot of damage. But
we always have to watch the client. I don't care what we're doing it for. It's their choice.
Absolutely. It has to come from them. If that's something that they want to work on, great, we can work on that. I'm focusing more on what's called functional integration, meaning parts are able to have co-consciousness, collaboration, communication, and work as a team, right?
Yeah. And I learned this from my dear friend Connie, that there's a conference room that we create in their mind, so that they can have votes, or some of them hide from the honchos in there.
Yes.
And they all have their own rooms, and they get to decorate it the way they want. And another thing that Connie told me was, and the only one that gets to drive is the one that has the license. And boy, it stuck with me what she taught me. And she's been doing it for forever. And
forever. Yes. Well, you're teaching them healthy boundaries that are age appropriate. Like a 5-year-old part should not be driving, right?
Well, I don't know. I used to do it. No, I'm kidding. I actually started driving at 12 because my mother didn't want to. But no, it should not be happening. It should be somebody with a driver's license.
Exactly. Yeah.
I know what you're saying about the functionality, the idea that when we're working with somebody that's got like an event coming up, I prepare them, and I ask who is going to take what role, and who is given permission to take over if the what word do you use for the actual person themselves that originally owned the body before? What word do you use for that?
You know, I feel like all my clients have different terms for them. Like I have one who says like, oh, the self. One has done a lot of work where she has what's called self energy in the IFS, in the IFS world. Another one will say my front parts, or the AMPs, right? Which stands for apparently normal part, right?
Yeah, or me, or however that looks.
Yeah.
But with that said, if that person is come back after somebody has taken the body and talked, because they're concerned what's going on at that moment. I don't keep secrets. I don't believe in that. So the first thing I get is what just happened.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, let's talk. I'll tell you what happened.
Yeah.
I will never keep that secret from you because that wouldn't be fair.
Right. Of course. I'm in agreement with you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of just recovery talk. We're only sick as our secrets are. But a lot of people, I don't know how many therapists really get DID,
Yeah, it's still a controversial, I think, diagnosis, and that's why I'm so glad your chapter is open to having me come talk, because it's such a misunderstood and mislabeled, honestly, and mismedicated diagnosis.
Yeah. In fact, many of my clients have been diagnosed somewhere around 20 years after they got started. And that is not really, it's like we have to figure it out. We have to play the guessing game, because at least for me, occasionally they'll come in, they're like, I know what I have. But mostly what I get is about 6 months in, I go, gotcha. Because they finally talk about something, and I'm like, is that person alive? Is that real? Did you really see that? And then we move from there. And I do talk to the psychiatrist, because quite often they get diagnosed with MP or with bipolar, and I've got a lot of borderline, some of those voices are borderline. And I'm not afraid of borderline.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be afraid of.
Right.
I grew up around that kind of stuff. And it's really just knowing that if they felt abandoned because of the way that they grew up, then, they're going to come out fighting because they're scared that you're going to leave them.
It's survival.
Yeah. And another thing I wanted to mention is I consult for this depersonalization, derealization stuff.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know if it's maybe because it's more known now or what. You know, it's kind of like ADHD is all over the place, but then also they have a lot of sex. So I figured that is a part of it. But depersonalization, derealization, I've seen pictures of little kids that were like, you could see the day they changed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I also view those diagnoses on a spectrum as well, right? And I've seen where people have it from a drug-induced place, and I've also seen it obviously from a stress, trauma-induced place.
Yeah,
right?
but I've never seen anybody that has not had some kind of complex trauma in the past once they feel more comfortable. At least that's what I've seen.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that too? Okay.
Yeah.
That's helpful for me because I don't want to live in my own brain and think it knows something. Anyway, I am so looking forward to you speaking at our upcoming presentation. Paul will be introducing you, I'm assuming.
Okay.
And Ilse will likely be helping with doing the tech stuff. And
Okay.
often Ilse does questions, and however you want to do it, just let us know. We won't record you until we've asked those kinds of things. But this is a subject that people want to hear about.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that.
Oh yeah, I'm going to start keeping up with you in terms of our numbers.
Okay. Okay.
And be ready, because we get big ones, even though we get more people that come than are actually members.
Oh, that's really neat. Yeah. You guys are a good chapter.
Yeah, but that's Lynn. She does the program. I mean, we all have a spot on the team, and it's so important for us to do our own roles and bring to the table without overdoing it and giving each other like not too much work, because like,
that's nice. Yeah, balance.
Yeah, like work-life balance, that is not easy.
Right.
And it's a volunteer thing. So anyway, I really enjoyed meeting you.
You too, Carol.
You would be a referral source for me for sure. We have about 20 on staff. And I don't know how you work this, but like I've always been private pay, and my staff takes some insurance. But when it comes to this, this is long-term work.
Yes, yeah, it is.
This is the only work that I do long-term. The rest of it, I'm like, look, let's get her done. If you are fighting and you're a couple, how about we just try it in 6 sessions? You'd be surprised what can happen.
Yes. Yeah. So, I like your confidence whenever you just come in for one session. I love it.
Well, thank you. I guess people have said that about me, but somewhere along the line, I've got like that many certificates.
Yes.
They used to look on my back wall and say, that's why I listen to you. And I'm like, I don't even put them out there anymore because, my walls would be.
Your walls would be covered.
So there's no point to that. Like when they tell us to do 18 for a year and I do 80.
No more cheating parts here, huh?
Yeah. I look forward to getting to know you in the future, because I've maintained relationships with almost every single person that I've ever worked with, even for just these few minutes. So with that, I'll say, can you just give me 1 minute, and I'm gonna say goodbye to the people watching.
Oh, sure.
I'm going to put all of her information on, as well as ours. I'm gonna give you where you can register. And you can only register till the Wednesday before, because we have to know, number one, is it going to be a webinar, which I already know this is going to be a webinar. Anything over 100, and it will. So that's just standard. And then we're going to be sending out sharing to a lot of groups, because today is Marketing Monday.
Right.
So if you would like to share you, and also the audience, share, because we have people coming in from all over the country, even though we're this little tiny entity, because marketing is, you know, to get the word out. And this is going to be really helpful. I do things like hoarding and, you know, immigration work and things like that, as well as disassociation, but they all come from the same place. You know, we all have trauma, otherwise known as life. Anyway, with that said, please sign up as soon as you can. And if you have any problems, let us know. You can go to iecamp.org and find the website information, the email address, and one of us will get back to you as soon as they can, because I don't do that. But that said, thank you for watching, and you guys stay safe.
Thank you.